Lester Yupkingkon is Chair and Managing Director of Strongbond Products Philippines, a medium-sized company offering retrofitting services for private and public structures. Yupkingkon says 4 in 5 of his clients are private companies. Only 1 is from the government. He says his company wants to have more projects under the government's Build, Build, Build program.
More infrastructure means more business because we're in construction. So overall, it's had an impact on the bottom line because the government is also hungry for new suppliers and new contractors. And so we're positioning ourselves to be able to fill in that demand.
Build, Build, Build is the Duterte administration's centerpiece program to address the country's inadequate infrastructure. This is taking a toll on traffic and travel, as well as the economy as a whole. All in all, the program has 75 projects, including roads, bridges, airports, seaports, railways, and even a subway. The administration says the program can usher in a golden age of infrastructure. However, only half of the 75 projects has been approved, and of these, only 9 are ongoing and 2 have been completed. The administration wants to finish 25 or at least a third of the listed projects on or before President Duterte steps down in 2022.
Given the midpoint of the Duterte administration, some sectors have been saying that, well, we haven't really seen the infrastructure as yet, and particularly many of the infrastructure that had finished are actually just a carryover of the previous administration.
For BDO Capital President Ed Francisco, the government should loop in the private sector on these projects. It seems, Francisco says, the Duterte administration gives more emphasis on carrying out projects through loans from other governments like Japan and China, instead of more collaboration with the private sector.
We respect, of course, the government's shift. They are less on PPP and they really want to focus on ODAs and also hybrid. It's just a little, we just want to see more of happening. No? It's been taking a while.
Finance Assistant Secretary Tony Lambino says the government is financing 2/3 of the cost of these projects. Francisco says banks can offer financing to hasten the rollout of projects. He adds, while commercial loans are more costly, banks can release funds faster.
If the government needs bridge funding for these projects because the ODA funding is not released, at least the banks use their excess liquidity, and they also use some of, we offer it to our depositors to participate in the government offering. So that's why we, all in all, parang how we're all in it together.
Lambino meanwhile says, quote, Philippine projects supported by foreign donors are strictly vetted to ensure that the social benefits are higher than the cost of financing, unquote. Francisco says another way to encourage private sector participation is through unsolicited proposals from local companies. Francisco adds, it also helps for the public to know the status of infrastructure projects. Construction industry players like Strongbond meanwhile believe there's enough private sector invitation to engage in infrastructure projects. Yupkingkon says the private sector looks forward to improvements in the bureaucracy, from the processing of business permits in government offices to awarding of contracts.
I think right now that the government is a safe entity to deal with. Payments are being issued within two weeks to a month upon awarding of contracts or upon billing, as long as we comply with all the regulation.
Rex Remitio, CNN Philippines.